morning. It's
we're doing it like
that. Yeah. Good morning, Brendan. It's wonderful to have you here. Brendan Jacobs is the head of the agricultural sector of Standard Bank. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right. Head of Agribusiness South Africa at Standard Bank. That's
fantastic. Right. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's wonderful to have you guys here. And tell us a little bit about this event that you're sponsoring.
And are you involved with this?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, no, it's an absolute privilege for Standard Bank to be involved with the Women's Breakfast, the International Fresh Produce Association's conference, bringing a fresh perspective on women in agriculture. For us during Women's Month, this is of course a key theme, acknowledging not only all the fantastic people in the value chain, being ladies, but also our lady workers at Standard Bank that add so much value into our agribusiness teams.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So I know when you talk to farmers and growers, they talk about the bank manager. How excited is Standard Bank about this industry at the moment? Because there's a lot of positive things happening and there's also a lot of challenges.
Yeah, I think of course in our wonderful sector there will always be challenges, but we're extremely positive at Standard Bank about the prospects, some of the recent developments, and just engaging with the various stakeholders here. Everyone I think sees the opportunity in further expanding, especially if you look at accessing new markets, working together as a broader community, specifically in the export community. We've got such a beautiful story and produce as South Africa to bring to the world and global markets. And we're very fortunate to play a part in the value chain there. We're a facilitator, a role player with many other role players, but we're very positive about that. We actually don't see ourselves as bankers. We see ourselves as partners to our clients, whether that's a primary producer or someone in the value chain. And so we embrace that perspective and feel privileged to play a part in that.
Oh, well, that's great. That's great.
And I think it's very important for somebody like Standard Bank to be involved in agriculture, because agriculture employs a lot of people, so it provides work for a lot of people, and specifically a lot of women in the agricultural sector. And also the agricultural sector is creating food and healthy food for people. So it's kind of win-win, and it's a good space for you guys to be in, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think we underestimate sometimes the big part that agriculture plays. In a corporate such as Standard Bank, to give you an indication, roughly a third of our asset book in South Africa is an agriculture book. So we view ourselves very much as being entrenched in agriculture. And if we look at the purpose we serve, it's definitely a higher purpose of solving for unemployment, ensuring food security, and growing in the markets in which we operate. And our female contributors to that, a large component of our agribusiness team are females. And also in the industry, if you take here Jane being the lead, as a lady, I think it's just so empowering during Women's Month, and we're really privileged and look forward to creating opportunities for more and more females in our sector.
Fantastic, and it's wonderful to have you here at the International Fresh Produce Conference. So much of our stuff of our agricultural product is exported, so we really need to be engaging with the international market. So it's wonderful to see you here and for us to be hearing all the things that are happening.
And we understand you are new in this portfolio. How long have you been there?
Yeah, no, thanks. I took over from our predecessor, Nico Groenewald, in April of this year, and Nico led the Standard Bank agribusiness in South Africa for the past 10 years. And having worked closely with Nico in various other capacities, it's truly an honor, and I think it's 4 months into the job now, and just such a privilege to engage with all the various stakeholders, but also to play a positive part in taking agriculture in South Africa forward.
Is there any interesting things that you guys are planning for the future in terms of your department for growers, things that people could look forward to?
Yeah, I think there's, I think, as I said earlier, exploring new markets is such an important part, and we have at Standard Bank a twofold advantage, if I can say it as such. Firstly, with ICBC in China, owning a 20% stake in Standard Bank.
That's correct, yes.
We're working very closely with them in identifying ways of collaboration and opening specifically markets to our clients and call it, for a lack of a better phrase, matchmaking and facilitating new relationships between the continents. In fact, we've got our ICBC team coming out here later this month, and some of us are going over there later this year to make sure that besides matchmaking, also leveraging of best practices both in South Africa and in China. I think there's a lot of things to learn both ways.
Yes.
And then in the intra-Africa trade perspective, I mean, we represent it in 20 countries across the African continent, and we have agribusiness specialist teams in most of those countries. So something that we're really focusing on is finding opportunities to not only do exports out of Africa, but I think a lot of, if you look at the statistics, a lot of trade is actually intra-Africa.
There's a lot of mouths to feed in Africa.
A lot of mouths to feed, a great opportunity. And of course, again, doing business in some of these countries in different jurisdictions is challenging sometimes. And we have the capability to provide in-country expertise to some of our South African clients, team them up with teams in the rest of the continent to provide value add and to also make it easier for them in some of those transitions and or exploring new opportunities in some of those countries. So I would say those are the two key things that we're focusing on at the moment.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really, really interesting.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us.
Yes.
Great.
And it's wonderful to be here and wonderful to meet you.
I'm pretty sure if we had more time, we would have had a lot more questions. But
sure.
Unfortunately, we...
No, thank you very much for the opportunity and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, and the same to you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jacky. It's wonderful to meet you here and to be attending this conference and the symposium with you. And we've had a very inspiring talk. Do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit what you thought about this?
Morning guys. So nice to meet both of you as well and to be here at the IFPA conference this morning in Cape Town. My name is Jacky Bois and I work for a business called Wauko, and we focus on assisting clients with cash flow optimization. Also obviously a member and country council member of the International Fresh Produce Association.
Okay.
What kind of who would be your ideal client?
Any business looking to have more or better cash flow.
So that's everybody?
Everybody. So we often have people say to us, but I don't have any cash flow issues, and my question would be, would you like more cash flow? Yeah. So I would think any business looking to optimize and have better cash flow in their business.
So do you work mostly in the agricultural sector, or is it that this part of your portfolio?
We look after businesses across 23 different industries, but we've got a very, very strong footing within the agricultural space, and obviously always looking to grow. The more you understand the industry, the better you're able to add value to the client. So always keen to grow and meet new people.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah. So we just had a presentation about the power of LinkedIn. We are huge advocates about LinkedIn, and we've mentioned to many of our clients before. Do you guys use LinkedIn, and what did you think about the session we just had?
So it's good to know, because it's nice to hear that you guys are active. One of the key takeouts for me from what Lisa said was the value of creating brand presence, personal brand presence, and then also as an extension of your business. At Wauko, we are big advocates of LinkedIn. We are very active in LinkedIn, and we really enjoy using the opportunity to give our clients the opportunity to tell their stories. So we've got clients that have done videos that tell their story of the experience of us, which is always real and authentic and personal. And then obviously also just to share content with our clients and prospective clients, because our aim is to empower everybody all over with the tools to help them from cash flow perspective. So yes, I thought it was very powerful. Personally, I also enjoy LinkedIn. It's a nice way to extend your brand. But I will say I did get a couple of nice tips and tricks this morning, which was really great.
Yeah. And we will definitely connect with everybody we meet here.
Indeed.
Great, yes, we absolutely must.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for chatting to us, Jacky. Really appreciate it, and nice meeting you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Good morning or good afternoon. I'm not even sure what the time is.
I think we're firmly in afternoon right now.
Good morning, Miriam. It's wonderful to meet you and to have watched your presentation. And for us to hear a little bit about your background and presenting here today. Tell us a little bit about your research, and it was very interesting. Please expand.
Yes, well, thank you. So I have been with IFPA for 16 years, which includes my time at United Fresh Produce Association before United Fresh and PMA came together. So in my capacity, I oversee the recruitment, retention, and engagement for all of our global member markets, including South Africa. We've got a great local team here that I really enjoy working
Fantastic.
with. Yes.
I've got a question. So, a big part of your presentation was that we need to get our message out there.
Yes.
How should growers do that? How should the companies do that? Because the people that's normally working in the fields, they're very shy of a camera.
Yes.
So what is IFPA trying to boost that confidence into the growers so that they can get the message out there? Because I'm pretty sure once we start going with that, it will just snowball.
You know, that's a great question. I think one advantage that we have is we're living in a digital society. So we can take consumers places that they wouldn't necessarily be able to travel on their own. So maybe a grower doesn't want to speak in front of a camera, but maybe they'd be willing to be filmed, and then a consumer could see a video, whether it's on TikTok or virtual reality, to get a better understanding of the work that's being done. So we know that consumers want to feel connected to their farms. They want to feel like they know their farmer.
Yes.
That's something that's universal globally. So I think the more that companies and producers, distributors can take advantage of creating that feeling of connectedness and getting to know the people behind their food, that can help brands be more successful.
You mentioned virtual reality now.
Yes.
Why did you mention that? Because it's a concept that people understand but still very foreign in our industry.
Yes, you know, I think it's truly immersive, right? You know, we talked about people can be 10,000 miles away. They may not have the opportunity to step foot on your farm, to turn around to look and see how the products are grown. But I've done virtual reality tours of farms, and it's amazingly immersive. I mean, you really feel like you're walking through the dirt and you're looking at the product. And the other advantage is as the consumer turns and looks and gets that 360 view, you have the opportunity to also add type and also audio to further enhance their experience. So I think it's a tremendous way to bring your farms and facilities to life.
Very interesting.
It would be incredibly cool to take that further. We've actually discussed doing that. And that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
So thanks very much for chatting to us. How
Of course.
have you found the audience today? How have you found the event?
The event's been wonderful. I mean, anytime you can bring together the fresh produce supply chain globally and also locally is such a valuable thing. I know how busy all of our members are, from packaging to seed all the way to consumer. And the fact that our members have taken time out of their day to come together to have these important discussions, it's so valued by us. And I think part of the reason that IFPA provides such strong value is the community that we've brought together.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very, very much for chatting to us today.
Of course,
We
yeah,
really
thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it, and we found your presentation very insightful. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
And thanks for visiting South Africa again.
Of course,
Thank
it's
you.
always my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Matome. Thank
Hi,
you.
Dewald.
Thank you for joining us, and it's good to see you again.
Thank you for the great opportunity.
Yeah.
And good to see you again. Eh?
Yes, it is. So, tell us, what is Enza Zaden?
So, Enza Zaden is a vegetable seed breeding company. We are originally Dutch, so founded 86 years ago in the Netherlands. But over the years, we have expanded our horizon throughout the world as well as the continent of Africa.
Wow. Mostly vegetables?
Yeah, focus only on vegetable breeding. So we do the breeding, production, as well as the supply of the seeds to commercial farmers.
And the actual breeding, where does most of that happen? In the Netherlands?
So we breed basically in all, almost all continents of the world. We try and identify climatic conditions throughout different parts of the world that will be able to give context to various climatic conditions, and that way we are able to select all the different breeding locations so that we can be able to cater for the market needs of the world.
Wow.
Okay, so it seems that you are on the country council for the International Fresh Produce Association.
100%.
So that's quite an important job to do, and I mean, with your company, Enza Zaden, the seeds, that's where it all starts.
Yes.
So tell us about your involvement with the
With
IFPA.
Yeah, so I've been on the country council even prior to IFPA when it was still PMA.
Okay.
And the importance of being on the country council is to be able to contribute and shape discourse, particularly around the entire fresh produce industry of Southern Africa. So it gives us the opportunity to be able to talk as industry captains and industry leaders around some of the dynamics as well as the needs of the South African fresh produce industry relative to the rest of the world.
Very, very important, because I mean, you know, so much of what we eat starts with a seed.
100%. And yeah, for us, that's why we also participate, because as much as it starts with a seed, but the final product is what the consumer experiences.
Yes.
So it's equally, although we're in the beginning of the chain, it's equally important that we connect with the entire value chain.
And the production of those seeds, the fact that, you know, you in order to grow a crop, you've got to have somebody growing the seeds for that crop.
100%.
So it's very important, and we found it very interesting. How have you found it so far?
I think it's been a really, really great program so far, a mix of different topics, and I think that's the essence of IFPA, that the conversations or the level of speakers ranging from the political dynamics to the market dynamics, what is happening both locally as well as at international level, and now this last speaker talking about just the technological trends. So these are all the different aspects that ultimately have an impact on our cultural sector.
Indeed, and a glimpse for us South Africans at an international perspective.
Exactly, and I think we are also able to, and that's the beauty of IFPA, is that you are able to connect, but at least look at what is happening at a local level, contrast that with international level. Sometimes you can also be able to see the trends in which direction the market is moving, and it gives us a little bit of glimpse of our potential future as well.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
What's been your most interesting one for you so far?
The most interesting, it's really, really hard to pick one single item. I think all the speakers have been great. I really did appreciate Frans Cronier's talk this morning, because I think it gives perspective, but also a very sober analysis, because sometimes I think politics in itself can be a very emotive subject, but I think it was very sobering based on data and actual facts, which was fantastic to see. But it also gives us perspective for us as an industry, what the potential upsides as well as the downsides could be.
Oh, that's it.
Well, thank you very much for chatting to us. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you very much, Louise.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dewald.
Right.
Okay.
Hello, Charl.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us so quickly.
It's a pleasure.
Please tell us who you are.
So my name is Charl Bois, and I'm the Managing Director for Capespan.
Wow.
Fantastic. And so obviously the South African conference for IFPA is very important to companies like Capespan. And tell us a little bit, what have you taken from this morning's session?
So I think for a start, I mean, IFPA is very important to Capespan. We're members both in the US and Canada, as well as in South Africa. So we've been very supportive of the PMA as it was, and IFPA today. So we believe it's an important industry organisation that really spans international companies and international markets. And I think that's the interesting bit for me for a conference like this, is that it's got a very international focus, it's got an international flavour. I think in South Africa quite often we get very focused and hung up a little bit on our own internal issues and local domestic issues. So it's really nice to just have a little bit of a bigger view of what's happening in the larger world.
Just a question, we had Michelle Phillips talking about the ports, and you guys were quite instrumental end of last year with the shipping from Walvis Bay for the first time. What's been your takeaway from the ports, and how has that project gone? What's new? What's coming in the new season?
Look, I think
it's a big question.
It's a big question with probably more than one answer. Look, I think the challenge in the South African ports has been operational efficiency. It has been, as Michelle pointed out correctly, a lot of equipment challenges. They've had personnel issues, and that's of course compounded by weather in the Port of Cape Town, in particular during summer, where we've got a lot of wind, as well as floods and other issues that we've had across the country. So I think some of it is probably out of Transnet's control, and some of it is probably within their control. Our view has simply been that it has become a huge business risk to us and to other companies and our customers really, that the Port of Cape Town is operating efficiently. So we've taken the view that we diversify into other ports. Like a lot of our South Africans, we're shipping out of Maputo. Last year we did a trial out of Walvis Bay, which went well. Walvis Bay, of course, has a private operator in conjunction with Namports. And for the coming table grape season, certainly we are planning on using Maputo again. It was a very positive experience for table grapes.
Oh wow!
We will also ship South African table grapes out of Walvis Bay, and not just Namibian fruit. So we will do cross-border, and like a lot of other South Africans, we're doing citrus at the moment out of the port of Maputo into the Middle East and into Asia. So I think as long as there are constraints at Transnet and there are options outside of, well, whether it's inside or outside of South Africa, but whenever there are more effective solutions, we and a lot of other companies, I think, will search out those solutions and use them instead of suffering huge damages and or huge risk in South African ports. Having said that, of course, the easiest route and the cheapest route on paper is a South African port, because the other ports have a lot of expenses, in particular if you're moving South African cargo outside of the border.
Yes.
For Namibian fruit, it's a bit of a different game, but moving South African fruit outside is expensive. But if it's the more effective route, I think a lot of South African companies will also choose that, even though it's more expensive, just in looking for effectiveness.
Yeah. So that expense outweighs the risk of not getting your stuff out.
Well, I think table grapes in particular have a very limited shelf life, as do most other fresh produce items. Easy peeler citrus being one of them, stone fruit, of course, being highly perishable, blueberries. So that the risk and cost of fruit arriving not in sound condition is a great deal more expensive than simply just spending more on the logistics to make sure that you have an effective supply chain.
So, in effect, what I'm also taking from this is that the presentation by Transnet here today, there's a lot of talk. If they start walking the walk and it actually starts getting implemented, it will be far better to be able to use our own ports once they're efficient enough.
Of course. I think that my big takeaway also from her presentation is I was a little bit taken aback because we've spoken to, as an industry, I mean, we've been concerned about equipment shortages in all of the ports, and if I added up the amount of equipment that is on order at the moment, I think I got to 190 pieces of equipment, including trucks, straddle carriers, cranes, all of which are very expensive pieces of equipment, and that's not going to arrive in a very short period and be the panacea that you'd hope. So I think a lot of that will take a year or two probably to fix. That it's fixable, I'm sure. I think it's just a matter of actually having the right equipment and the right people and gearing up operations.
And almost in the same sentence she said that the budget was cut.
Yeah, and I mean you can see what's happening to their volumes and revenue. So it's to do that out of own operations if your business is under pressure is not going to be easy.
Yes.
So I think that the only logical solution is going to be with, as they said, public-private partnerships and to get industry on board. Looking at the amount of money that's been spent in South Africa in the past 3 to 4 years, both in terms of new plantations, new pack houses, new cooling, new logistics, there's been billions of rand spent. So it's certainly not a shortage of money, it's not a shortage of capital, and I don't think it's a shortage of will from private enterprise. It's simply being allowed to do this together with government and or together with Transnet for private people to come in, and I think that is the logical solution, to have a bigger stake for private companies. And I realize privatization is complicated in that environment, but certainly with private operators helping, and I think there are a lot of companies and a lot of people with expertise internationally that could do a really, really good job in a very short period. So I think it can be turned around. I think the will is there. We just need to take hands and make it work.
Fantastic.
Wow, thank you.
Very good answer to a complicated question.
Yes, thank you very, very much. You obviously deal with it daily, so there you go. Thanks.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charl.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good to see you.
Thank
you. So, good afternoon, Anton. Thank you so much for joining us. Will you please introduce yourself and tell us what your big job is?
Thank you, Louise. Yeah, so I'm Anton Kruger. I'm from the Fresh Produce Exporters Forum in South Africa. where we represent 95% of all the exporters of fresh produce. So in essence, our role is to make it possible for the exporters to export. And then I'm also serving on the country council of IFPA, the International Fresh Produce Association. So I've been on the council for 12 years now, when it was still the PMA, and we've seen the changes within the organization. But we're very glad, I think, that we've managed to get a more Southern African and South African focus within IFPA. That it's not only a focus on the US, although the head office is in the US, but we see the understanding of the South African market, of our dynamics that are quite different than the rest of the world, and all our challenges. And I think that is this conference as well, why that's called the Southern African Conference. And we want to address the challenges, the issues, equip the members of IFPA with knowledge, with expertise. I think, as you've seen now, some of the speakers.
Wow.
And from my side, well, seeing that we're so involved on the export side, what I'm impressed with is Michelle Phillips, the CEO of Transnet. The whole change that she brought about, she's been in the position permanently now for what, 6-7 months. She made huge changes in terms of the culture, transparency, the willingness to work with the private sector, to ask us for how can we make things happen together, transparent, open, and that permeates down to the other managers within Transnet, especially in the ports. You know, Port of Cape Town, in some year or what ago, some other senior people at Transnet said, well, the wind is the problem in Cape Town. So we said, oh, the wind's been blowing for 120 years since we started exporting fruit.
Yes.
What do you do when the wind stops? How quickly do you recover? Now we've got proper recovery plans. We shared with the industry immediately afterwards. We've got meetings every morning. We call it war room meetings at 10 o'clock, 20-minute operational. Okay, what happened yesterday? What's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? We provide the information on the volumes that they can expect so that they can plan. We do a lot of things together. And therefore, we're very glad to see that, you know, and again, realistic, things that need to change. Equipment, as Michelle said as well, but it cannot happen overnight. But again, to have the private sector participation in that. And we're quite willing. We've been offering assistance all these years. And now I think it's being accepted and we can move ahead.
She certainly seemed very impressive with her presentation. And as people say, she's been talking the talk, and she certainly looks like she's walking the walk as well.
That's true. If you see what she put out on the equipment, the hauliers, for instance. You know, when she promised there will be 47 before the end of September, and half of those have been delivered already.
Wow.
So the other will be here. She said that other pieces of equipment, the rubber tie gantries, so many will be delivered, half of them be delivered already. So it's not only talk, as you said.
Fantastic.
I've got a question. What can because we've got incredible produce in our country, and I think a lot of people know that we've got incredible. What can we do? What can the people on the ground, the growers, the exporters, do more to promote our incredible produce so that it's in more demand overseas?
The demand is already there. The problem is we don't have access to all the markets.
Okay.
And that is again where we, as now are talking, wearing the hat of the FPEF, the Fresh Produce Exporters Forum,
Yeah.
where we've been engaging with our government, the Department of Agriculture, previously Land Reform
Yes.
and Rural Development, for the past 8 to 10 years and say, let's take hands and go especially to the east, because some of the markets in Europe and the UK are saturated. We need to find more markets. We've got 35% growth in fruit volumes until 2032. So we need to find homes for that.
Yes.
And then that market access is a bilateral between governments. But from industry side, we do a lot of technical work, do research work. We assist. We say to the government, let's go. So we provide a schedule every year. We've got 9 priority countries in the east, where we then go, say for the past more than 10 years, every year, to be involved in the discussions with those governments, together with either our embassy in that country or officials from Pretoria. So to see what are the difficulties, why don't we have access, what can we do. And interestingly, sometimes it's a matter of interpretation in the different languages.
Okay.
So one of the countries didn't realize that orange is part of citrus. It was a long thing that we went there, and I said, we went to the guy's office, that official from the country, and I said, just show me your document. I said, but that's orange, you know, citrus sinensis, it's an orange. So it's on your list.
And on the, in terms of mitigating protocols, because some of these eastern countries got some very strict protocols in place, that some of them are almost unfound, or not necessary these days.
One of the big challenges is there's call it a plant disease, a pest, a false codling moth.
Yes.
You only get it in Africa.
Yes.
Nowhere else in the world. So on flowers from Kenya and fruit. So we need to have either cold treatment protocols or systems. So we try and get those countries to agree to a systems approach. That is to see right from the farm through the whole process, how do we mitigate that?
Yes.
Various things that we can do. Instead of only the cold treatment, because some of those cold treatment protocols are very harsh.
Yes.
For instance, lemons can't take the protocol that Japan wants or that China wants. You know, the quality deteriorates.
Yes, but then lemons also are not a host for FCA.
Yes, but as you understand, you know, and also the citrus black spot issue with Europe.
We are aware of these issues.
Yes. But one of the other challenges is we get access to the markets after long years, you know, 15 years for apples to China.
Yes, I remember that.
We're at now avocados successes, the recent 2-3 years for China, for Japan, for India.
Yes.
But then we stuck with huge import duties and tariffs in those countries. For instance, in India, we pay up between 32 and 53% import duties. I'm also part of SHAFE, the Southern Hemisphere Association of Fresh Fruit Exporters. All 8 the Southern Hemisphere countries which export fresh fruit, this organization where we come together and discuss things that are common. And we put together a table to see with our competitor countries, all the target markets in the East that we're all exporting to, what's the situation with regards to free trade agreements, preferential trade agreements, put it in a table with red, green and amber blocks. South Africa is red right through. No agreements. You know, we're part of BRICS.
Yes.
We don't have an agreement with China or India. You know, so we say, you know, we pay those high import duties. But then coming back to what you initially said, the quality of our fruit. India still, despite the 53%, they want our fruit. You know, you have the 53% import duty on apples.
Yes.
They want the fruit.
If I'm talking a correction, and please correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they recently drop the import duties on apples from the States, India? I believe I read something like that somewhere in the
Yes. Yes, they are from the other countries, that's what I said, you know. Yes. The exporting country, or our target countries in the East, they've got very favorable trade agreements with our competitors and with other countries. One of the problems negotiating that is South Africa cannot negotiate those agreements on its own. It must do it as part of SACU, the Southern African Customs Union.
Okay.
SACU, yeah. So now say for instance, say a hypothetical example with India. So we say to India, please drop those tariffs, import duties for South African fruit. And they say, okay, but we want to export more Tata vehicles to the SACU region. And then Miriam would say, no, we Toyota guys, you know, we don't want more Tatas. And then it's on the table, just a hypothetical example that can say it's not like for like. It's not fruit for fruit, you know, and other things at play as well that we understand. There's a bigger picture, but we really feel, you know, that more can be done there to make us more competitive. But I said our quality, and then also coming to your question, stimulating more demand Yes. Should we have then the access and or the favorable trade agreements is trade shows, international trade shows, Fruit Logistica Berlin, Asia Fruit Logistica in Hong Kong coming up in September now, Food Attraction in Madrid. But because of the financial constraints of our governments, our Department of Trade, Industry and Competition cannot fund these shows any longer. So we have to find the money. For Fruit Logistica Berlin, we funded this year. We're funding Asia Fruit Logistica in Hong Kong now, which they used to fund 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
But we've started with Fruit Attraction in Madrid, 4 or 5 years ago, but we fund that. In any case, we do Fresh Produce India, we fund every year. We do Fruit and Veg Fair in China. And we've, the Philippines AgriLink. So the reason why we're doing some of these smaller shows is because that participation in some of those countries, say in China, if you participate in that event, you get a guaranteed appointment and meeting with the government officials, together with our government. So although the show in itself is small, but the opportunity around it. So we must be there. And South Africa is the biggest exporter of fresh fruit in the Southern Hemisphere. 32% of all the fresh fruit in the Southern Hemisphere being exported by South Africa. So we cannot afford to be absent at these trade shows. The biggest player in the Southern Hemisphere must be there. You can't have Chile and Peru and the other guys there and South Africa not.
Exactly. And then also, while you're there, the market on that side, not necessarily their government, the market will ask for South African products. And that will spark the government to act.
Yes, that is part of it, where we do, in South Korea, a recent example with grapefruit, where we did an in-store promotion. And that stimulated the demand so much, it almost doubled.
Wow.
During the time of the promotion with retailers there. And I think that high demand remained for about 4 months afterwards. But just to make the people aware, and so in these trips, we try and partner with the industry associations, importers or chambers of commerce and industry in those countries, and see how can we create a big demand and a pull from the commercial side on their government to try and expedite the process. And from here on this side, we're also involved with our government to see how can we expedite these processes as soon as possible.
Incredibly interesting.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And for us to come to this International Fresh Produce Association event, it's for us a glimpse into the international sector. And thank you so much for chatting to us and for sharing that with us. Thank you, Anton.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Louise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that will help with that, probably.
Good afternoon, Shubha. It's wonderful to meet you here at the International Fresh Produce Association Conference and to have heard your presentation. So thanks for agreeing to talk to us. Would you introduce yourself and just tell us what you do, please?
Hi, I am Shubha Rawal. I represent a company called IG International Private Limited in India. We are one of the largest importers in India, and we're very strong on our logistics supply chain. We are also a farmer now doing berries, dragon fruit, apples, pears, kiwi fruit in India. And today I am really honored to be here and be a part of this conference. And I would really like to thank IFPA to considering me to be a part of the panel as a speaker and give the perspective about the Indian market in South Africa.
Fantastic. And your insights that you shared about India and about the fresh produce and what people are doing shopping-wise and so on was really, really interesting. And please tell us about the pears. Repeat what you told us about the pears.
So pears from South Africa. So I'll tell you. So we start buying BCs. So in week 3.
Yes.
Being exported from South Africa to India, and that pear would reach maybe week 6. And then we follow it. It is followed by varieties like Cheeky, Rosemary, Sempre, and then you have your Peckhams, then Forels, Vermont Beauties, all these varieties depending on their harvest. Now with my last shipment going out of South Africa is week 49, or maybe in some cases week 50, which reaches India in week 1. So I have the product arriving in week 1 and shipping week 3. So South African pears has taken a 52-week supply in India. And there are no other pears that are more demanded by the consumers in India because of the quality, I would say, and they like these varieties because they stay longer on the shelves. They don't go bad. They are very strong pears, and they use technologies like Smart Fresh to make them stay in India even after the long transit time. So yeah, I mean, pears are doing exceptionally well, and I'm always looking for more and more. But I really don't get the volume that I need on pears.
That will be the fact that you have a whole full year supply of pears.
Yes.
Will be music to the ears of our South African pear producers.
I am sure, and I want them to know this,
And you want more.
Yes,
That's
I want more,
know.
and even apples. Now, if you talk about the apples coming from South Africa, they are very high colored, and I can imagine why is that? Because of the weather that you guys have. I was in Ceres yesterday, and I saw some of the mountain ranges and plantation happening. Now, if you have this kind of a winter, the color has to be good, and the quality that they pack, that's amazing. So India is a market on high color varieties on apples and clean looking pears, be it blush or green pears. So yeah, they're doing really well. Even citrus. I mean, I was in Joburg a month ago when the citrus season started, and even citrus is doing very well in India coming from South Africa.
Wonderful.
What's the size of the growing of apples and pears in India? Is it a big industry being grown locally or?
Yeah, I mean, India, if I have to talk about the local production, it's not growing much, and it will not grow also because there are limited land parcels that you have in India, and they are up in mountains and they are already being planted. And now even if I as a grower have to find land in the mountains, I cannot get it, because that's already gone. There's no land available in India for farming the apples. So which is why India is very strong on the imports of apples when it comes to non-season, and Indian season is only from July till December. So rest 8 months are supplied by different origins to India. So on apples, India is quite big on imports.
But recently South Africa has opened up the market to export avocados to India as well.
Yes.
What else is in demand that could come from South Africa to India?
I think avocados is a good product to come in. India is slowly now building market for that. I would give the credit to Tanzania for growing avocado consumption in India, because one, it is duty free. There's zero tariff from Tanzania. The transit time is only 12 days, so it reaches very quickly. That has increased quite a demand for avocados in India, because there is consistent availability, and the price is quite more aggressive than compared to New Zealand and Peru, which was coming in the market. So yeah, South Africa, we've not started yet as our company, but we are looking forward to have that window when the Tanzania is out of the market.
Wow. And any other produce, be it, let's say,
I think plums and grapes. We do some stone fruit as well. So plums, peaches, nectarines, they do really well. And also on grapes, it's relatively small window because we have China grapes supplying to India, which is again very close by market, and it can reach quite quickly compared to South Africa or Peru to say. So I think grapes has huge potential during that small window also, and also plums. Like in the early months, plums also do quite well out of South Africa.
Very, very interesting. And India is not a market that we immediately think of as an export market. So it's fantastic to hear that it's growing.
I would say if you mention India to anybody else, they might think it's a poor country.
You have to be there. I mean, I wanted to mention in my speech as well that, maybe we don't have as amazing chicken wings as you guys have here in South Africa, but we have amazing butter chicken. So you don't have to worry about that. No, and you're most welcome to India whenever you want. And India is growing. And I would just like to give this message out to everybody here who is into farming, that if you're not there in India right now, you are missing on to be. Because India is a very, it's an upcoming emerging market, and one needs to be present there. Otherwise, you'll just lose on to a big market. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very much, Shubha, for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
And for giving us your perspectives and the very positive insights that you shared.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How's everyone? I'm Travis Coppin. I run the retail division of Food Lovers Market. We're a family retail business. We've been in operation 31 years now in South Africa. We've branched out into neighboring countries. We have a corporate division in Namibia, and we have a franchise operation both in Zimbabwe and Botswana, as well as Mauritius.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
So how
for
many
your
stores are
introduction.
that in total?
About 105 of Food Lovers Market. Then the greater group, we own a company called Seattle Coffee Company,
Okay, yes.
which is 300 outlets. We actually opened our 300th one last week.
Nice.
Then we own a brand called Fresh Stop, which is obviously at all of the fuel forecourts.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's really it's a great brand, huge growth with Astron now, hopefully. And then obviously we have FPCI, which is our import-export division of fresh produce,
Okay.
where we do around 6 million cartons a year of export, mainly citrus and grapes.
Okay.
And we have a little liquor business with about 40 liquor outlets.
Wow. Fantastic.
Wow, it was very, very interesting to hear you chatting here at the International Fish Produce Association conference, and I loved your mantra, stack it high and let it fly. Is that it?
But
Pile
yeah,
it high?
it's something actually I learned from my dad and his brother.
I love it.
Yes, when they opened Access Park, it was like 1994, and the motto was "Pile it high and watch it fly."
And clearly that's happened.
Yeah,
and
we're
it
still doing
continues
it.
to happen.
It's probably not the most profitable business model because it generates waste, but it creates theatre and abundance, and we delight our customers. So life's not only about profit.
It certainly does, because when you walk into one of your stores, you get that feeling of abundance and largesse, and it's all there, and you can come and fill your basket.
Yes, thank you. That's what we're trying.
But it works, because when you walk in, you get that feeling.
We want you to be amazed.
We are.
So out of curiosity, what does Food Lovers do to keep their prices low? Because obviously if you look at Checkers and Pick n Pay and all the other brands.
So I think we are remarkably different in the fact that all of the other brands grew out of being a grocery business first, and very, very, very good grocers. Whereas we started as a fruit and veg business. We've been doing fruit and veg for 31 years. We did fruit and veg before the supermarkets. So I just think it's part of our culture and our DNA, and we've always operated like a fruit and veg business, whereas they've always operated as a grocery business. And when we started selling groceries, because we thought how hard can it be, you learn pretty quickly it's two very different businesses and how you manage them. And there's different costs at different places. One has a lot of labor at the store, one has minimal labor at it. So it really is, we're just good at it because we've done it for very long. I definitely think the competition is getting better and better and better, and they're now hot on our heels, so our buying team better.
Especially with the online apps. And you said if it's the cheapest, you're going to get the sale.
Yes.
As you said on stage. I walk in the shops, be it whatever retailer.
You check your phone.
I'm looking on my phone, and if I see it on the shelf here, I'll go cross-check it with the other platforms. So there's not that thing where you can't.
The competition is rife.
And it's there.
You must be wakker,
and the competition can see everybody else's prices.
No, look, I don't recall a more competitive time in the retail environment than today. I mean, I think that sadly Pick n Pay is struggling, but if Pick n Pay was also firing, it would be very difficult for everyone.
Yes.
Because it really, the market is under pressure.
It is, very
Indeed.
much.
You mentioned good news stories that you aren't telling.
Yes, I'm wearing one of them.
Okay.
Seeds of Change.
Okay.
This is a supplier development program we started when I was living in Durban, whereby it first started off with how do we find small African farmers who are struggling to enter the market and compete at a regional scale, especially because they have no offtake. And as wonderful as the municipal markets are, they're good if you're an established farmer. For a small farmer, it can be very tough if you hit it at the wrong time, because it's a supply-demand business. And we found that really, really was hurting any opportunity for a small grower to grow in South Africa. So we went on a drive to say that if you are a small grower, you sign up with us, we'll interview you, you come present. And every year we list 10 small growers or suppliers in South Africa on our shelves. We fund them if they need to get HACCP approvings or audits. We send in technical knowledge where we can. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. In the last 3 years, I think, of the 30 we've listed, 17 of them are now established businesses.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, really, the ones that don't make it are the stories. It's not bad stories, it's more of a product that doesn't have a market, not a poor product.
Yeah, because we work a lot in fresh produce in terms of the fruit industry. So we don't get around to a lot of the vegetable farmers, but I'm I'm on 1 or 2 WhatsApp groups, and you'll see a message come through. I've got 10,000 heads of cabbage. I almost feel like people plant it without having a...
So that is exactly what they did. So that is where we stepped in to say, right, so you can plant 10,000, we buy all 10,000, and what price works.
Yeah, so the planning is prior planning and getting it, set up. It's landing now on your doorstep and you have to deal with it.
No, yes. And it's worked quite well, thank God. Yeah.
My goodness, very interesting. And thank you very much for sharing your insights on the stage and your very natural, just say it how it is and tell the story.
Well, there's no other way of saying it than
Absolutely.
saying it.
My mom once told me long ago, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said.
Exactly. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, Dewald. Thank you. Bye, Louise.
Bye,
cheers. Thanks.
There
you go. Bye.
Have a great one.
Hi, Clive. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been very interesting to be at IFPA today, at the conference, and to hear what was presented today. Would you please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, tell us which company you are involved with, and your company's involvement with IFPA. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Clive Garrett, and I'm part of the marketing team at ZZ2. We've been involved, ZZ2's been involved with IFPA probably for the last 15 odd years. Our company was part of the founders of the old PMA in South Africa, which is now evolved into IFPA. We've really enjoyed what we've put into IFPA, and we've really enjoyed what we've received back from IFPA.
Okay, for us it's been very interesting because IFPA gives you an international focus. We sit in South Africa and sometimes we feel quite isolated here from the rest of the world geographically. And this conference, what's really great about it is it gives you that international exposure. And we've had some very hopeful presentations here today. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think if we start off with Dr. Frans Cronje, very, very positive on what's happened in the country. I think we're all hoping that it's not the second Ramokgopa, but I think we're a lot more confident that things are changing. We've seen things happening. We already seen elements of the new government starting to perform better than they have done in a number of years. I think as an exporting company, a lot of our produce now gets exported. I think it was very encouraging to hear what Michelle Phillips had to say. I hope that she's going to walk the talk and not just talk the talk. But if what she says comes to fruition, I think it's going to put South Africa in a very, very good position. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've got now, currently at the moment, is getting our product out. We've done a study, and in the last 10 years, the average export time on our avocados to Europe has gone from about 20 to 22 days. It's moved up to in excess of 35 days.
Wow.
And the problem is an avocado just doesn't have that kind of shelf life. If you expose an avocado to the cold chain for too long, as soon as you ripen it in Europe, you get what they call grape pulp, and it's been a very big issue for us this year.
Okay. Only this year, but recently, or from?
Look, no. In the last few years, we've had these problems with avocados, but in this last year, it's been severe because we've had some huge shipping delays. I mean, one of the ships, the MSC Abidjan, took 45 days to get to Europe. And an avocado just cannot handle that kind of delay. So we're really hoping that they can get it sorted out. What's very encouraging to hear, they've already made huge investments into additional cranes and other equipment in the harbours. So we're really hoping that this is now going to start bearing fruit for us.
With you being on the marketing side of ZZ2 and what they've said here earlier about social media presence and using the new technologies coming, what do you see going forward for a company like ZZ2 in those kind of things? Because I've asked the question a couple of times, especially to people from IFPA, is that what should the growers do to get the good message out there?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And what we've seen is we're very active on social media. And what we've seen is when we tell stories about the farm, and I think that was mentioned in the talk today, yes. People love a story. And when we actually show pictures of the farm, rather than just the product itself, but we actually show pictures of the farm and we tell a little bit of a story about the farm, whether it's just a nice sunset or whether it's a cow standing in the field, regardless, people love that story. So what we're concentrating on our social media is trying to tell the story about ZZ2. And ZZ2's got a fantastic story to tell, you know, stretching back for now over 100 years, and how it's developed and where it's come from and what it's done. And the social responsibility that's gone, I think that was also mentioned.
And your environmental.
And then, of course, the sustainability. I was going to just say there, you know, ZZ2's got a philosophy of what we call Nati Boudre. Loosely translated it into English, it's nature-friendly farming. And really all that means is that we try and farm in harmony with nature. We try and do what's best for the environment. And I think people like hearing that story because they want to hear that you be acting responsibly in the growing of the produce that the people are consuming.
Yes, I vividly remember some of the photos I've seen online, and I've happened to drive past some of the ZZ2 plantations before, with those big baobab trees growing in the tomato
fields.
Yes.
Yeah,
beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and IFPA has been incredible, and thank you very much for your involvement. I know that you've been involved from the beginning of the planning for this event, and we've really, really enjoyed it. And we've enjoyed chatting to you.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.